everyone, I'm here today with a book review for you. Back in January I reread one of my most favourite books ever, and I buddy read it with Caris, and I will leave a link to her channel down below. Each month we are rereading a Roald Dahl book together, or reading a Roald Dahl book together should I say, not all of them are rereads. So we want to read every single Roald Dahl book ever published. And so in January we read Matilda, and I've got such a soft spot for this book. I absolutely adore this book. The first time I read it I gave it 5 stars, this time I gave it 5 stars, and here is the review for you. I was a little bit worried going into this book for a reread because I haven't read it for several years now, and it was one of my favourite childhood books of all time. I was really worried going into this as a reread because I thought that maybe I'd built it up as better in my head than what it actually was, but I needn't have worried because I enjoyed this just as much as an adult as I did as a child. For those of you not aware of the story of Matilda, this book is about a young girl, just there, look, bit of a bookworm, and she is ignored by her parents for the most part. She has an older brother named Michael, and he's very much the favourite child of the family, and definitely the one that not only the mother but especially the father really sort of worships. He is treated to all the nice things, he's put through school, whereas Matilda has none of this. She's very neglected. They don't really give her monkeys about what she's doing as long as she's not getting herself in trouble. She wants to learn to read. They don't really teach her, she teaches herself, but they don't want her to learn to read. They want her to just sit in front of the television like what they perceive as a normal child and just sit and be part of the family, whereas she wants to learn. She wants to go to school and they don't even realise that she's of a school age, and it's just at times quite a sad story, but overall this is such a heartwarming book. The first thing that struck me when I picked this book back up was that I'd actually forgot a lot of the story. The bits that I'd remembered were really strong in my head, but they weren't that big a part of the story in comparison to the whole picture. I'd forgot a heck of a lot, and I definitely forgot the level of humour that Roald Dahl put into this. For example, Matilda decides to get her own back a little bit on her terrible, horrible, evil father, and she gets up to some little pranks, and he tries to accuse her of it, but at the same time the mum is like, no, how could she have done this? She's just a child. There is no way that she could have superglued your hat to your head. Then there is the time where Matilda managed to dye his hair peroxide blonde, and again he wants to blame her, but how possibly can he? She's so clever, she leaves no proof, and as a result it does make him treat her a little bit more nicely here and there, but overall he's just such a horrible person to her, and I can't blame her one bit for using her smartness to really get back at him. And as a result, the reader is sat there really egging Matilda on through all this, and I was laughing so much I'd totally forgot about all these incidents, and I thought it was really clever. I'd also forgot, this is the original book that I had as a child. It's a bit battered and whatnot. But I'd also forgot about the wonderful illustrations that you can find in this edition. Quentin Blake is just phenomenal. Let me try and find... Oh yeah, I quite like this one. There we go, look. Oh no, my book's falling apart when I try to do that. I've got Matilda with her school book, the disgusting cook at the school, the head teacher at the school, because not only does Matilda have such bad luck at home with the parents, she also ends up going to school where there is such an evil and horrible headmistress called the Trunchbull, and the illustrations in this really help sort of amplify just how terrible a person she was. And I really do wonder how Matilda would have got on if it wasn't for the fact that she obviously ends up with the most amazing teacher ever called Miss Honey. And there are a lot of links within the story that I'd forgot about between Miss Honey and the Trunchbull, and it's such a clever book. Now as a child I never noticed the next little detail I want to talk about, but rereading it this time around I was like, oh, that's so obvious. So Roald Dahl is really clever with the naming of his characters, and you can tell just by the name whether the person is going to be horrible or wonderful. For example, the head teacher is called the Trunchbull. Well, That's not a very nice sounding name. And then meanwhile her teacher is called Miss Honey, and Honey is sweet, and Miss Honey is indeed quite sweet. Then we have Matilda's parents. So their last name is Wormwood. What an awful name that is. That really makes you think, ooh, when you hear that. When you associate it with the person, when you know them as well, it just gives you that bit more oomph into understanding just how terrible or lovely a person they are. I think it's wonderful how even as an adult rereading this book, I was able to find new things that I hadn't noticed when I was reading it when I was younger. And it's such a sign of just how wonderful Roald Dahl's writing was to appeal to children and adults too. I love all the different aspects in this book in terms of following Matilda as she goes to school and seeing all the problems she gets there, as well as her problems at home, and seeing how strong a character for a little girl she really is. To take herself to the library. What kind of little girl would actually realistically be able to do that, yet you believe it because she feels such a strong character? And when she gets herself finally taken to school and she has to put up with the Trunchbull, again, she is such a strong character and you can believe everything that happens, even though realistically none of this stuff could ever happen. You could never be thrown in a chokey, which is basically a small cupboard that has spikes all the way along the inside and coming through the door on the inside as well, so the person has to stand perfectly still and perfectly upright, or else they get spiked. And I feel like it's just such a sign of how amazing Roald Dahl's writing was, that you can have all these unbelievable situations and they feel real, and you support Matilda all the way, and you want her life to turn out wonderfully, and I'm sure she probably ends up in a wonderful life. I do wonder what a sequel to this would have sort of involved, and I really sort of wish that one existed. But never mind. This book obviously took me back to my childhood, and I loved every second I was reading it. It was quite a quick read, and I think actually for a children's book 240 pages is quite a reasonable length actually. And I know that I used to devour this as a child and really read through it, so if you've got young children and you want to try them with some chapter books, this is definitely a great place to start. And if you're an adult and you've never read Matilda, you will definitely enjoy it, and I highly recommend you pick it up. So thank you very much for watching this review. Please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more reviews and other bookish content from me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye!